So in this podcast, we are in the psychological framework. So we are talking about psy-wars and psy-op. We want to study what? The psychological warfare or even the psychological operations were weapons in the mental war long time ago, and of course before the Cold War. They were used to create a planned psychological reaction in other people. It wasn't necessary to use the truth, and lies were very efficient against the emotions or the motives, the value system or the belief system. It was a level above the rhetoric. Everything was possible to get a result. False flag tactics or black operations were possible to destroy the morale of enemies. It was a way to mislead the enemy about the presence and disposition of forces. In 1924, a Soviet directive for higher commands stated that operational deception had to be based upon secrecy, imitation, demonstrative actions, and of course, disinformation. The theory Operation Maskirovska was one of most important means of achieving surprise. The stunning effect produced on the enemy was a crucial point. They didn't need the Cold War or even the NATO to do this. By this way, the term psychological warfare was known in USA only after 1941. So, we are talking about something which is a reality. In a reality of what? Of the anti-Cold War. So it's important to imagine that for the Soviet mind and the Soviet mentation is not something new. It is in their mind from the beginning because they are based on liars. They know that their ideology is not functioning, is not efficient. They don't care. They just want the power. So from the beginning, they use theoretical concepts and they use psychology to convince the others, to persuade the others that they are right. So their tools, their weapons, in fact, were created in a kind of mental war. So it's very close to ideology, not so close to policy, but in fact is a good way to do something wrong. I mean, if you want to do something wrong, it's not a good idea to use good facts, because at the end, it will be wrong. But if you are in the wrong place, with the wrong timing, you can use liar to create something new, which is propaganda. In this new framework, you can imagine that if everything is fake on what you do, the important thing is if the others are thinking that it's true, and this is sufficient. So imagine that you know the absence of reality of what you are thinking, but you know also that the others trust this. They believe in this. In fact, you have created what? Believers of your propaganda. For the others, it's the faith. They think that Soviet Union is like this. And you don't care if it's not the reality. Your reality is their mentation, which was created by you. In fact, it's not only a Soviet principle. In reality, we can find this in Sun Tzu. Because he said what? It's not so important to win the other, but it's better if your enemy is thinking as you want. So, with the psychological warfare and psychological operations, they were ready a long time before the US to do this kind of things. And even in Europe, we are not prepared for that because we had a very long tradition about diplomacy, policy, political facts, but not in a strategic mix, which is created on a lie. Everything was wrong. So they use real tactics and, of course, operations from the beginning. You remember that the beginning of the Soviet Union is in 1922 in reality. So in 24, it's really at the beginning. So they have already Soviet directive to use operational deception to create surprise, to disinform everything, because in this field they were the best. The problem is everything is fake, even for yours. So your people at the end became what? Believers of propaganda. So if you want to do this, it's easy for a short time. But at the end, because time is with us, it's impossible. So fake news don't have duration. In fact, as an algorithm, they are created to do something wrong for a short time. And it's possible that it is sufficient. But at the end of a period, of an era, it's impossible to use it. So, before the Cold War, 30 years to create this. Okay, so they were prepared. But imagine that this kind of theory, this kind of tactics, this kind of psychological warfare for USA, the beginning was in 1941. So just 6 years before the starting point, the official of the Cold War. So in reality, you had at that time someone who was a specialist of psychological warfare, psychological operations, fake news, fake history. And on the other side, one who was what? Innocent. So they have to learn all these kind of things. For me, it looks like Enigma and the bomb. Sharp specialists about this information with codes, and you have to break the code with a real mathematician Alan Turing, create a real team, and to be better than the best due to your mind. And they did it.